Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for SkySlope zip form this morning. I'm going to share my screen here and should show you the SkySlope dashboard. Everybody can see that? All right. I'm also going to open up a tab and sign into zip form, zipformplus.com. This is a free product of the NAR. It used to be integrated with SkySlope. However, they've removed that integration, so it is a separate platform. Regardless, it's still the 2 steps that you'd have to do once, even when it was integrated. So you're going to create the contracts here in a zip form. This gives you a paperless transaction to start, and then you're going to upload it into SkySlope so that you can send it for signature and hopefully initiate a pending transaction. All right. So we're starting in zipformplus.com. We're going to sign in. If you don't have your sign in or you're unfamiliar with ever receiving a sign in, simply reaching out to Faith in the office. That's that back office processing email address, and she'll get that set up for you. All right, you're going to get lots of ads that show up in here. You can always click it and say don't show again. On the dashboard here that it should open up to by default, we're going to create a new transaction. We're going to click new on the top second menu bar there. And I'm going to go ahead with a purchase. So we're essentially writing an offer. And this is something that you can use if you're familiar with .loop or have used it for a long time, you're going to use as a loop. Okay. So we're creating that here. I'm going to call it my buyer's name. Let's just say Jane Doe. And so therefore, if I have to write more than one offer for Jane by chance in today's market, everything's going to be set up here for Jane. Okay. You could set this up as just a generic buyer, or you could set it up specific to a client. Okay. So I've got Jane Doe. It's going to ask me what location I'm out of. It should by default have your office location that you're affiliated with. It is a residential contract and it's active. You can keep the information on here kind of vague, only because we're not tracking or managing the transaction here in zip form. We're going to do that in SkySlope. Okay. It's going to create that little icon package that shows up on the desktop here and open you up into the first page, which is our summary tab. Now in the summary tab, there are fields here that are going to populate throughout every document that you're going to have. Just as if you went to a filing cabinet and you pulled out your contract and your agency, and we're going to do that. And any information you put in here will populate through those forms. Okay. So this is where you're going to put like the street address. And because this is interchangeable or editable, that's why I said you could create a package for a specific buyer and be able to change up the address all the time.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So
I mean, I didn't think to do it that way because I'm done several,
gotcha.
like you said,
yes.
Several contracts, multiple offers, then you move on.
So I'm going to just put in the Erie Avenue address here just for sake of simplicity. You don't want to put in an MLS number here only because, as I had mentioned, zip form is a national product, it's an NAR product, so it's nationwide, and it could easily confuse the MLS numbers. I've tried that once before and ended up with a property out of Oregon. So I think whatever MLS feeds into there better, that's what it's going to pull. So we don't need to worry about the MLS numbers on that. But it does populate through my address. With it being said that there's several fields on here from several different contracts boards, there's going to be fields that we won't need to put any information into. Like our corresponding contracts may not have the school district listed on it, which it doesn't. So you don't need to put that in there. It's just keep it simple with just the address so that populates through. The next section down that says purchase summary. This is where you can start to kind of populate your dates. But again, unfortunately, if the date field on the contract doesn't match up with the date field in the summary, it won't feed through. So I've learned just to put the address in to get that populated across all the forms, and then the terms are going to be fillable individually. The next tab over here at the top, and this does save automatically, is parties. This is where you want to enter in your party's name as well as your information. We're going to go ahead and click on buyer 1. And I'm going to enter in that information. I did name the file or the transaction after my buyer. Whoops. Come back up there. There we go. After my buyer, but I'm going to put her name back in here. I don't need to put in her other information. Again, I'm not managing her as a contact here. That would be in SkySlope. Okay. One thing you'll notice here on the bottom section is the signing representative. So if you do have a POA or an LLC that you can put that information on here throughout, and it will populate throughout the signature lines. So it would say, you know, Jane Doe on behalf of, you know, Enterprising LLC. Okay, so you do have the ability to put in a signing representative, so you don't have to retype that on every signature line. We'll hit the save button here at the bottom. If you have a second buyer, spouse, father, parent, co-worker, or partner, I'm sorry, you're going to put them under buyer. Even if there's 3 buyers, you're going to populate that under there, and that would be applicable to sellers too, if this was a listing agreement. Scrolling down though, you'll see it says listing agent and broker and selling agent and broker. I've had agents confused by this. In the situation of representing a buyer, we're the selling agent. So we're going to go put our information under the selling agent and broker. If it was a listing agreement, it would hence be listing. So the full name would be your name. And this is the information that populates on the last page of the contract, the purchase contract. On page 8, we have to put in license numbers and all that. So you want to get this in here now so that you won't have to retype that every time you're creating a purchase contract. Your agent ID is your MLS ID, your license number, your email address, your phone number can be yours or your office's. Most of us don't have faxes, we'll pass over that. The selling brokerage information that's down below, this is where you're going to put in the information for Chris and the office that you're out of. So the firm name, of course, is RE/MAX Preferred Group. License number, I can never remember the license number for RE/MAX, but if you go to your MLS profile and click on the RE/MAX Preferred Group name, it will populate that up for you. So that's a quick, easy way to find it.
Is that just the MLS one?
No, it's okay. The office ID is the MLS ID. The license number is the one, I think it's 0000.
447359. 40447-359.
Okay. 447-359.
359.
Okay, thank you.
And how many zeros are in front of it?
4.
4.
And the full name, they're looking for Chris's name here. And the office ID would be your office ID. I'm out of Westchester, which is PREG03. Hyde Park is PREG01. Mason would be 08. Then the email, they're looking for Chris's email, cbeersford@remax.net. The phone number here, I would put the office phone number in. Fax we don't have, and then the broker address, Union Center, Westchester. All right, we don't need to put a category in there. We're going to scroll down and hit the save button at the bottom. So that's all typed in there. We won't have to type that again. We're going to go back up here to the Documents tab that's next to the parties and click on that. This is where we're going to our filing cabinet and pulling out all the papers that we would use in a purchase package for this buyer.
Hey Lee,
yes.
So you're saying that once it's typed in, you say you never have to type that in again?
Correct, because you can use this repeatedly as a purchase. You can even change the name. It doesn't have to stay as, you know, Jane Doe or whatever buyer name you put. As long as you gather the documents here and change anything on the summary page, you've got a new working document.
Thank you.
All right, so under documents, we're going to click on all forms on the top right here. You'll notice that there are libraries, form libraries. With the pull down menu, you'll see that there's the Board of Realtors, the State of Ohio, and the RE/MAX Preferred Group. So just as if you were going up to the first drawer, the Board of Realtors, you're going to pull out what you would need in a purchase package, which obviously would be an addendum. Most likely you have an addendum. You want to have that on hand. You'll have the contract to purchase. You might go ahead and pull out maybe an escalation addendum. Again, you don't have to use all these forms. You're just having them on hand as if you're grabbing your purchase contract to go or purchase package to go. Definitely the post-inspection agreement. If you're often using that post-closing occupancy, you could grab that too. You can always go back and grab these later. I'm just trying to get you a good package together to begin with. If you have any short sales that you're working on, those documents are available in here too. So really out of the Board of Realtors, we just grab the addendum, the escalation addendum, and a contract to purchase. I'm going to switch my library name up here at the top by pulling down the menu, and I'm going to click on Ohio State. These are forms that are specific to the state of Ohio, so that you're going to pull out of here your consumer guides and your disclosure of agency relationship. If we were doing a listing contract, we would pull out the residential property disclosure. Otherwise, in a purchase situation, you're going to get that one completed off of the MLS. Dueling company, exclusive buyer, exclusive seller, they're just trying to format this for you with signature lines. Dueling company would have 4 signature lines for both parties. Exclusive buyer or seller is only going to have the 2. So I'm going to go with exclusive buyer since this is a buyer's package. And I'm going to pull out the agency disclosure too. Go back up here to my libraries and I want to click on the next library down, which is the RE/MAX preferred. And these are documents that most commonly are in every transaction, but you're specific to RE/MAX preferred groups. So we do want our affiliated business arrangement disclosure. We want our anti-fraud disclosure. And if your buyer's not familiar with Rivertown, you can include the Rivertown title handout. This explains to them what Rivertown is and does for them. There are some concierge service material here, such as the moving checklist, the list of lenders, and the HMS home warranty. The buyer's consent to disclose, if somebody uses that, is available here, as well as the sellers. So again, these are most common in transactions, but these are branded to RE/MAX preferred for your use. So once you're done pulling out your forms of your libraries, you're going to hit the X button to close out of that. And you'll see that the forms that you chose are now populated as little icons on the dashboard here. You also have the ability to organize them. So if you wanted to work on them in a particular order, we're going to hit the Organize button up here on the right-hand corner, and you can click and drag these anywhere. Generally, I like to put the consumer guide first because I need to explain that to the buyer first. And I feel that the consumer guide leads into the agency disclosure, so I'm going to put that next. And then that goes into the purchase contract. I don't always use the addendum, don't always use the escalation addendum, and I'm not to inspections yet, but I do need that affiliated, so I'm going to grab that and put that up past the contract and the anti-fraud as well. So those are the 5 working documents I know I'm going to use every time, and I organize them to be kind of upfront. When you're done organizing, you're going to click on Done Organizing. Now you can pull up each of the documents to kind of fill in anything that wasn't auto-populated. So I clicked on that consumer guide icon first. I can see that the RE/MAX preferred group populated in there nicely. If I scroll down to the second page, there's my buyer's name that has printed out nicely there. And we're not adding any signature lines or tagging signature lines here. We're just creating the document. So that's all I need to do is be sure that populated on that form. By clicking up here, and you can see this at the top, let me bring the faces down. My Forms is going to pull up a quick shortcut to all the forms that you had, so you can quickly go onto the next form. You can also achieve that by clicking the green back button, and that takes you back to the dashboard that had the little icons. So either way, you can access those forms. Okay. This takes me into the agency disclosure. I want to be sure that the buyer's name populated, and then because Zip Form doesn't know what agency relationship you're going to have with this buyer, these are left blank. So you do need to fill in the applicable relationship, whether it's the 2 agents in 2 different brokerages, 2 agents in the same, or even at the bottom, 1 agent representing either both or one party. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure my name is filled in here. And my brokerage name. Okay, and I'm going to hit the Save button at the top. And I'm going to click on that My Forms again so that I can get to the next form down the page. The contract to purchase. Here we go. This is the fun part. All right, the date I had left blank because I wasn't sure that would populate over, so you want to be sure to put your date in there. And then the address did populate over there. The further described as, if you want to put in here any tax ID number that you have on the property, or maybe had an adjacent lot that's included, be sure you put that into here as well. On the next field down where it's the price and terms, if you notice when you click on that, it automatically pulls up a little calculator icon that lets you know it's a numeric value field only. So you can only really put numbers in here. And you just need to put in the number. You don't have to put in the punctuation. It's going to format it for you, and it's going to spell it out. The next field down was that Earnest Money, another little calculator. So we're going to put in the price of the, or the amount of the Earnest Money, and then who it's going to be deposited with. Now the next fields down, anything that's that tan or beige color you see on your screen is a field that you can input into. So you're going to put in the number of days that you'll have the earnest money receipted into this listing agent. Check those boxes that are checked off, are available for check off there. And as you go, like I said, everything that's a field is editable. You can type in there. See how the little pencil appear? That means I can put text into there. You want to be sure to check the boxes that you need to. At the bottom, that's where the buyers are going to initial, and we'll drop that in on the DigiSign step, as well as the date there. In the essence of saving some time and being a little efficient at this, if you know your buyer's signing this today, I would put in today's date on there. That populates that through the document and saves you the step of putting a date tag in there. So I'm scrolling down through my contract. I'm filling in all these terms that I need for here, for this buyer on this property. When you get down to the last page, you're going to see where that populated in all your information. So it filled it in really nicely and it's all complete there. Okay, any questions on that step so far? All right, we're going to hit this.
A quick question.
Sure.
When we went and we filled this, what is the point of my forms if we pulled everything in we're using?
It's just a shortcut to toggle between the forms.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I finished up the contract like I just have, I can click on either that green back button,
Okay.
or I can click on My Forms. My Forms pulls up all the documents in a list for you. And if I were to just click on the back button, it takes me back to that dashboard where they're all little icons.
Okay.
So just a shortcut for you to toggle between them. So once you get that contract completed, we needed to go on to anything else that we had. And it screwed up my organization.
Did I screw that up?
No, no, that's so funny that did that. Let me hit the refresh button. Let me organize that again. So I had my consumer guide, then I had my agency and my contract, had my affiliated, and my anti-fraud. Once you've typed all those information into all of those documents, this is where you're going to combine them into a single PDF to export out so you can put them into SkySlope. In doing that, you're going to select all. It's going to pull everything together and it pops up a brand new menu. You can unselect the documents that you don't want to include at this time, which are the ones we didn't use, like the addendum, the escalation addendum, and the post-inspection agreement, okay? Once you've unselected and selected the ones that you do want, you're going to click on the button that says Save as PDF. It's in the dead center of the menu bar. It's going to pop open a new window and it wants you to select your save options. You're going to save it to your device. If you were to save it in the transaction, it's only going to create a PDF within zip form, not that you can take anywhere. So we want to save to my device. You'll notice that it has the name of the files that you're saving, and you could change the order here if you needed to. And it did bump that down and took my contract first again. All right, I'm going to hit the save button in the top right. This creates the downloadable PDF. When you click on that, it's going to download it wherever your computer saves by default. Mine goes to a folder that says downloads. Some people have it downloaded by default to their desktop or my documents folder. So, but it is named what you named it in the beginning. You'll see the file name says Jane Doe Documents. Okay. Without doing anything else, you can go right back to that SkySlope tab that we had open. Here's your SkySlope dashboard. Now, if we can set that document aside for a minute, I just want to introduce you to what you're seeing here. RE/MAX Preferred Group logo in the top left is always the home button. If you ever want to get back to this home screen, you just need to click on that button, okay? The numbers across here are going to be the numbers that change every month. This is based on your current monthly activity. Anything that you have scheduled to close, anything that's actively listed but not pending, anything that is pending and scheduled to close, either this month or further out, anything that has closed. So you'll see being in the first, all these numbers reset to 0, okay? Gonna go back to the home screen here. The next set of icons down below, we have manage transactions, create transaction, manage listings, create listing, DigiSign. Going through those first 5, manage transactions is just a shortcut to pull up the transactions that you have in SkySlope. To create a transaction is to create one within SkySlope. This does not feed out to the MLS. So this is exclusively just to manage a transaction in SkySlope. And a transaction is something that you have pending. We're not going to put our unsigned, unaccepted deal into a transaction. The manage listings, same thing. It's going to pull up your active listings so that you can manage the documentation or the next steps in a listing. Create a listing. Again, maybe you've gotten a listing signed over the weekend. You want to get everything into zip form so you can send, or into SkySlope, sorry. This alerts your office admin, depending what office you're out of, that you've created a listing or you've created a transaction so they can go in there and pick up that documentation, okay? And then DigiSign, that's our electronic signature platform. You can upload external documents. You can use it within the transactions to get documents signed. So it can be internal and external. The next icon, row of icons at the bottom, incomplete checklist. As you get transactions into the system, you're going to be given an email with a checklist, and this would be red light, green light kind of thing, and I'm going to show you there here in a few minutes of anything that you're missing or needs further action on the documents. Canceled contracts, these are deals that just went dead, didn't close, so they're going to be in your canceled contracts. They will also be in that archive, the access archive here. That's all of the document or all the transactions going back to the beginning of time, and we started using the system in 2016, so those documents go back that far. Task and reminders, not that we all need another calendar, but this is an excellent place, especially if you're having several people maybe on the transaction, to create a task or reminder. This is an email then that goes out to them in the morning of the date that it's due, whether it's to remind them of a post-inspection period ending or a walkthrough that you need to schedule, okay? And I'll show you how to do those as well. Working documents is the very last icon here on the right. And sometimes it's the first one you go to besides DigiSign. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, working documents first. This is going to bring you into a screen that has these 2 tabs here, Personal Docs and Office Docs. Personal Docs is captures almost like an email inbox, everything that you put through DigiSign. So everything that you put through DigiSign will show up in your personal inbox here. Okay, and this is where also when you grab these documents from here, if I click on that little box next to the document name, a whole new menu popped up. I can put it into DigiSign from here. I can move it somewhere, either to another folder over here I created on the left, or I can assign it to a transaction. Okay, and that's going to pull up my list of my pendings and ask me if I want to put it in there or in a listing. Okay, I'm going to hit the back button here. Again, selecting the box next to the name pulls up that extra menu. I could delete it from here, or I could email it. So it actually lets you have the ability to email this out. So maybe you need to get a copy of this to the lender and you don't have necessarily the transaction set up yet. You can email it simply from here. All right. On the back at the top here, the next tab over, this says Office Docs. This is like a filing cabinet with all of the contract documentation that we have available to you. We have Ohio forms, we have miscellaneous forms, we have Kentucky forms. Quick side note, in zip form, if you remember when we went through the libraries, none of them had an MLS form, like a price change amendment or extension on the expiration date. MLS forms are not integrated into zip form, but we do have them here on hand for you here, okay? So once you select the form, again, when you clicked on that file name, it's going to pull up 2 different options, assigning it to a transaction or putting it into DigiSign. If you click on the file name itself, it's actually going to open up in a viewer. Okay, this is so that you can see the document. Unfortunately, in a viewer, when you start typing things and then hit print, it's going to come out blank. I get a lot of agents that do that and say, I just filled out that whole contract and it's blank. You have to download it to your system to be able to have it as savable. So this is a fillable form, but not an editable form, okay? So when you click on that file name, and that's what we did, back in SkySlope, we clicked on the file name, it opens up in a viewer. In fact, if you look at your URL right here, it shows you right here that it's just a viewer, okay? It's even pulling up Amazon. That's a viewer, okay, by default. So anything that you type in here won't necessarily be saved. You need to download the document to your computer. Okay. Any questions on the forms on the Office docs there? Okay. If I go back to my home button here and go back to my main dashboard, and let's pick back up where we were. We had just left zip form. We had downloaded our buyer's documents. We want to get them sent off to our buyer so they can get it signed, and we'll present the offer. I'm going to go ahead and click on DigiSign. This pulls up a completed tab, and it should show you a list of any completed documents that you have to date. We're going to click on New Envelope because we're creating a new envelope to go out for this offer. It's going to ask us too if we want to select a property to return the signed documents to automatically. Not this time because we don't have an accepted offer or transaction, so we're going to say no property. That's just an affiliation. It's not removing your property name or anything. Next tab over takes us to documents and templates. You're going to see two little side-by-side screens. It's going to ask you to upload a document, and it's going to show you the order that they appear and if you're going to apply a template to them. We have the shortcut ability to just drag the file name up into there, or if you were to click on the upload button, it's going to open up your Explorer so you can go find the document that you had. Like I said, mine go to downloads automatically. If I clicked on the download folder, it's going to start pulling up my downloaded files eventually. I'm sorry, the system is really moving slow here. There we go. So then I could find it through my Explorer too. So again, you have the ability to click and drag, or if you hit the upload button, it takes you to your Explorer so that you can open up it from the download position. All right. Anything that you upload on the left will show up on the right, and then more importantly, it shows up in the order in which it's going to appear to your client. So if I also need to upload my MLS documents, you know, the property disclosure, I would grab that one. Let me see. There we go. Tell it to add that to the file. And you'll see now it appeared on both sides, but maybe I really want that contract to go first. This is a click and drag. You can change the order by clicking and dragging it. Okay, so again, left-hand side shows you what documents you have. The right-hand side shows you what order they're going to go in. Okay, we're going to hit the next button here. This takes us up into our recipients and the signing order. By default, you're usually going to have to sign something in that contract. It might be the lead-based paint disclosure. Maybe there's a checkbox you forgot to check. So I would automatically choose yourself as a recipient. If you find that you don't need to sign anywhere, you can always unselect yourself. Okay, so select yourself as a recipient, and then we're going to hit new recipient so we can put in our buyer. So I'm going to put in my buyer's name. Got her email address in there. The role, I need to choose that she's a purchaser. If you use the pull down menu, it's going to show you several different roles that it has. She's going to be the first to sign, and she does need to sign. So then I'm going to hit the save button. We'll see it over here. It's got myself and my buyer both as first signers. If there was a second buyer, maybe a spouse, and they say, I'd like for my wife to sign it first and then I'll sign it, we can hit add signer group as many times as you need. You'll see it populated in there second and third. So again, maybe it's an estate sale and you've got 3 people that need to sign off on the document. You can assign them each individually and it will go to them once the first person signs before them. Okay. If you don't need those signer groups, just simply clicking on the X will remove that field. In efficiency, you can add the receiving agent. So the listing agent, you could add in here as a recipient to get a copy of the signed document when it's done. Okay, I'll put Amy in here since you're sitting right here. And she's the agent on the other side. She's going to receive it first, but she does not need to assign, so she'll receive a copy, and that means upon completion. Okay, so who only needs a copy of the signed document? I'm going to put the agent on the other side, and I just use Amy. We'll hit the next button here on the top right. This is going to open up that PDF that we uploaded of the documents. It's going to show me in my right side where I'm at in the document, and the document that I'm in front of me that I'm going to work on. Across the top here are the commands that you can use to tag the document for signatures, initials, dates and times. This 2 fields here, writable and read only, those commands are for text box. So if you needed to add something to the document, maybe you're going to go back through and strike through a price, and I'll show you how to do that. That's going to be to use one of those boxes. The difference between the 2 is that writable is, as you can see, is unlocked, means it's editable. So whoever you send it to can change what's in that box. If you choose read only, it's locked and they're only going to see what you put in there. So again, you might want to be sure that you're using read only most often so that they're only seeing what you put in and not changing anything you put into there. Full name would just simply populate the client's full name or whoever party you choose onto the line that you place it on. And I'll show you that example as well. And then we have a checkbox. Okay, so if you forgot to check a box in the zip forms, we'll be able to check the box on the document here. So I scroll through here, I'm going to get to the second page and I see that Jane needs to sign on the signature line. So I'm going to grab the command signature. You just need to click on it. So click on the command and then you're going to click on where you want it to appear. And it's going to drop it on right there. Now it says it's for me. If you toggle here by pulling down the arrow next to the name, you'll see the other parties appear. And so I can change it to Jane there. Okay. Now, rule of thumb, how did you get that to sit so nicely on the line? You just learn where these go on the document as much as you do it. The name appears as a prompt to show you where it's going to show up. So if you've got your box down here, you're going to see that that's going to put the line right through Jane's name. So you want the box to sit up on the line so that Jane's name appears as though she signed it on the line. I also need the command date sign. So I can drop that right in here where it says date. And that's, again, it's going to show Jane's name, but it says a date for. That means so it'll populate the date that she actually signs it. Okay. Scrolling down to the next page down, we got our agency disclosure. It populated very nicely with her name. It's got my name and the brokerage there. But what if it hadn't populated her name? This is where you could grab that full name and you can drop it on the line that you need it on. Again, there's that prompt, so you're going to see that that's going to need to come up a little bit, but it is assigned to Jane. So you'll see here in a second, it's going to print her name out really nice right there. Okay. Scrolling down, we get to another signature line. We can grab our signature, drop it in there. Looks good. Let's go on to the next section here. Nothing on that page. Here's our property or purchase contract. All of it has populated through. I've got all my blanks filled in. Maybe I forgot to check a box on the financing. Here's where we can grab that checkbox command. Now, when you notice that you grab the checkbox and you click it where you want it to appear, you can click in the box and actually line it up a little better. See if I wanted it over the 35, but I'm gonna put it right over the box and I'm gonna let go and it's gonna put a check mark in automatically. The reason why it's important to have you as the recipient of that checkbox is because I guarantee when your client gets this document and they're going through and clicking on the next command, they're going to accidentally uncheck that box and not even realize that they did that or what it's for. And then when you get the document back, you're gonna say, oh, that box isn't checked. Yeah. So if you assign it to yourself, you'll be the one that sees that that's done for sure. Okay, so I assigned it to myself. It's checked right now. That's how I want it to stay. At the bottom of the first page, I know I'm going to need to grab the initials. So I click on the command and I click on where I want it to appear. It's going to drop right on that line. I already populated the date in there to save myself that step. But again, if that wasn't populated in zip form, you're going to grab a date sign command and drop it onto the date line. As you scroll through the rest of the document, you're filling in anything else you need to, placing more initials or signatures. When you get to the very bottom of the document here, get back here. You're done there. You don't have any more pages to complete. You want to get back up here to the top. And I'm just grabbing my scroll bar and taking it all the way up. And I'm going to click on the send button on the far right. This is going to open up the email message that's going to go to your client. So you want to be kind of specific in this. The subject line, you could say offer docs for Erie Avenue or whatever property name that was.
Lee?
Yes.
Can you go back to the section where you can put in other contingencies
Yes.
and just show us how we line up?
Sure.
Yeah, please.
Excellent question. So I'm going to cancel out of here. This takes me back into my document, and Kyra wants to go back into the third page of the contract. So I'm going to cheat on the right-hand side and see where that is. It's actually the next page down. I want paragraph 16. That's another page, sorry. So paragraph 16, if you want to put other contingencies, like maybe you've got buyers buying as is, I'm going to grab the read-only box and I'm going to drop it on here. My name appears inside, and that's where it's going to sit on the line. The box is actually expandable, so you can drag it out as far as you need it. You have up to, I think, 500 characters. So I'm going to grab it just long enough to fit that line. When you click inside the box, the name still appears there. And again, that's just a guide, but you can start typing buyer performing inspections for buyer use only. Whatever else you need to put in there. Okay, it doesn't have an addenda attached to it, so I don't need to check that box right above it, but that's going to be the read-only box. And if I assign it to myself, I'm the only one that can edit that. When my buyer gets it, they're going to see that text in there, and you'll see that here in just a minute. Okay, did that answer your question, Kyra?
So you put so you put it right on the line. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And you'll see how this actually appears, you know, without the box around it, and when I send it on for signature. So if I go back up to the top, thanks for reminding me to do that. I hit the send button. I'm going to type in offer docs for Erie. And a note to my buyer, Jane, please follow prompts to sign where needed. And if it's the first time they're using it, I would put the nice note, you will receive a copy when you have completed. Okay, so they don't have to sign up for any service. They're going to get an email of a PDF of what they signed. Thank you, Leanne. Knowing that I copied the other agent on this, I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to put in a little line here. Amy, please call me to discuss. All right, once I hit send for signature, it's going to go away and say, woohoo, that was easy. You're like, right. But it knows that I'm signed in right now, and it knows that I have to sign something. So it's going to ask me if I want to sign it now or sign it later. If I hit sign later, that's fine. I'm going to receive an email that I have a document to sign. So whether you do it now or later, it's up to you. But I'm going to hit sign now so you can see what your clients are going to see. When they get that email, it says they have documents to review, and they're going to see your nice little message you typed in there. They're going to open up to this screen exactly. They're going to see that Remax Preferred logo in the left-hand side. They're going to pick out the signature that they want to use. They're going to agree to the electronic disclosure agreement. And then it's going to take them through the documents and tell them they can start here. It's going to take them to the very first spot they need to sign. And look, it took us to our checkbox. And that's why I said a lot of consumers will say, oh, okay, I'll click on that. The check mark goes away. So if I check it back again, it appears. If I hit the next button again, it's showing that I have to initial here, and it populated that date. Remember, I dropped in that date command. So it says I completed, but I'm going to return to the document so I can show you how that text populated. It didn't ask me to confirm it, if you remember, because it's locked, it's read-only. But when I get down here to that page, there it is typed in. Nicely sitting on the line, the buyer only sees that. Okay? Do you see that, Kyra?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So I went through all the document. I don't need to sign anywhere else. I'm going to go back to that next button. It's going to take me back to the end, ask me either I can return it or I can submit it. So simultaneously, my buyer has received that too. And I have gone back to my completed screen. If I click on the sent button here, it's going to show me that that document is still in the sent column. It's going to show me I've signed it and it's still waiting for Jane and Amy and whatever action needs to be done for them. If perhaps you got a call from your buyer and says, you know, I haven't gotten that yet. Where is that document? There's a chance maybe you spelled their email wrong or something. If you were to pull up your sent file here, looking at the file name, I'm going to click on the little wrench button on the far right. That gives me the ability to edit it. I can either just edit the email address that I have in here for her and resend, or perhaps she says, you know what, you spelled my name wrong. Well, then you're going to have to correct the envelope. When you correct the envelope, anyone who's already signed, which was ourselves, it's going to remove their signature. It's not going to take off any of those tags. It's only going to remove the signature that was completed. So I'm going to tell it, yes, let's take that off. It's going to take me back into my document, and it's going to say, what do you want to do? I need to go back because I spelled her name wrong. So I click on the back button at the top, and I'm going to go into her name here. Maybe she wants her middle initial to appear. So Jane R. Doe. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and hit the next button here. And as I scroll down here, it's not going to change anything that was typed in there. So she's still going to have to just deal with it that it's printed that her name is Jane Doe, but her signature will appear with that middle initial now. Okay. If I hit the send button there, this takes me back to my email that I had already typed up, and I could maybe just put a note on here, corrected, and then put down in here, receive, I've added your middle initial to the signatures panels, so that she'll know that that's been added for whenever she signs. And I hit send again. Now again, it took off my signature, so it's going to let me know I need to sign again. I choose my signature script. I agree to the consent. I hit the start button. It's going to take me directly to that checkbox, and then it's going to remind me that I need to initial here. I'm going to submit that, and that goes back out in an email to my buyer now, and it's back in my sent tab. Okay, any questions on that? No, we're good? Okay. Are we ready to dive into transactions specifically? Do we need a minute, or what's the consensus? Anybody need a bathroom break? We're good? Okay, we're good. All right, if I click back on the home button here, and I'm going to open up one of my pendings. So I'm going to click on the pending, and let's pull up one that's I know is in good shape. Zumstein, there we go. So I'll pull up the Zumstein listing here. On a side note, I do a lot of transaction coordination for several agents in the brokerage. This is one of those deals. I get added as the co-agent in SkySlope, not on the MLS, in SkySlope. This gives me the ability to coordinate this transaction, all the paperwork that goes with it, okay? And then anything I do, that agent sees, and vice versa. All right, so I've got Zumstein pulled up here. You have the same header throughout every one of these tabs. It has the address. It will give you the acceptance date, the year the property was built, the agent's name. Escrow number is irrelevant at this point, whether it's what type of transaction it is. It's a listing that's been sold. The estimated close date, which is the close of escrow. But interestingly enough, it gives the transaction an email address. So if you are at a copier and you're scanning anything in, you can email it directly to the transaction. So like your closing statement, you get done closing, you say, hey, can I use that copier? Can I scan this in? Send it to the transaction. It's always going to be street name, street number. Now this has a 1 because this is a resale. He's already had this in once. It went pending, or it had to get canceled and relisted, so it appears with that number 1. Otherwise, it's always only going to be street name, street number at skyslope.com. Okay. Under that transaction tab that we're on right now, it's just going to give you a quick overview of the transaction. There's my name that shows up as that co-listing agent. And again, that just gives me access to it in SkySlope. It's going to have the closing date, the acceptance date. It even has a listing expiration date. I'm going to hit the next button here. That's going to take me to the next tab at the top. And that brings in the contacts. This is going to be all the parties that are to the contract. So the buyer, the seller, the title company, the other agent on the other side. If you just hand this file to your admin, they're putting all this in. Okay, so they're getting those names from the contract. That's how they're populating these fields. And they're going to list out the seller. If you look at the left-hand side, we've got the seller information has to put in here. We hit the next button. It's going to take us down to the purchaser. So they pull up the purchaser. It's only really going to require their name. You or your admin's not going to put anything more in than what's starred, and they just want to know the buyer's name.
But this is all after you've gone.
Yeah, an accepted contract. So we're putting in the transaction. Next field down would be the title company. It does want you to put in a title company person. It does want the phone number. You can see here, I have no idea who the closing officer is going to be. I have the listing, so I'm going to put to be determined. I put in the phone number. In those instances, I put in the phone number of the other agent, because again, that's who they'd have to contact anyway. So just for, keeping this nice and clean and at least making some sense, I put in to be determined, and then I'm putting in the other agent's phone number since they're controlling the buyer side. Agent representing the other side is the next column or option down, and that's where I'm going to put in the buyer's agent's information. Okay. Once you've got those 4 fields, they're not really going to have you require anything to put in for the lender or the home warranty or any miscellaneous. That's really just creating an index card for you. See, nothing is starred here. I'm going to hit the submit button. That's going to take me to my next tab, which is the commission tab. This is the accounting side of the transaction. It's going to populate or calculate what the commission is going to be on the property and when it closes. Any other deductions that you have. This, when you set up your transactions and you get to the screen, this would be excellent if you do have like a referral to send out. So if this is like an Op City lead or another Remax referral that came in back and forth, you're going to be able to put that information in here. Okay. And then any other additional information on the bottom here. And then you'll see when the office populates this, when they're putting in, your transaction, it will actually spell out who's receiving what. Okay. If I hit the submit button again, that's going to take me to my next tab, which is the checklist. In the beginning, when I was showing you those icons on the dashboard, and I mentioned that incomplete checklist, once you get to this stage in the transaction, whether you're doing it or your admin, it is generating this checklist for you. It's going to tell you exactly what documents it needs to go with this transaction. They're listed out here on the side. And once you have them kind of uploaded, it will show complete. If there's anything that was missing in the document, there'll be a note in the comment section. Okay. And they really should have the checklist tab after the document tab, but on the document tab, which is the next one over, that's going to give you a list of everything that you've uploaded or gave it to your admin. They uploaded into here for you. Anything with a paper clip has already been assigned to that checklist. Okay, that was on the previous tab. Anything without a paper clip is really just in there for your own. Like I received the intent to proceed, so I uploaded it to the transaction. Doesn't have to be assigned on the checklist, but I want to have it in the file. Okay, same thing with an approval letter. Didn't have to be assigned to the checklist, but I want to have it in the file. Okay. If you wanted to look at what was on here, this is actually labeled pages from the purchase contract. Click on that little eyeball there, and it's going to open up in a viewer what that is attached. This was attached for the sake of the earnest money being receipted. Scroll down, and I can see what that was. Okay. But it was also assigned to the tab for purchase contract because that's what it's going to go on with. It's going to tell you right here that it was assigned right here to the contract to purchase. So when you put your mouse over the paper clip, it'll tell you what it's assigned to. If you click on the eyeball, it's going to show you what the document is. Okay. Click out of there. Now, what if you're within the document and, for instance, maybe we didn't have the earnest money receipted yet, and you get a nice note on your checklist, EM needs to be receipted, EM for earnest money. If you go into your document list where we're at right now, and you pull up the contract, if I'm going down my list, I see the file that says contract to purchase. I'm going to select that contract. I'm going to go back up here to my menu, and I'm going to click on DigiSign. This is going to take us into DigiSign. It's going to show us all the documents that are in that transaction already, and it's going to show me that I've selected the contract to purchase to move forward. When I click on the next button, it takes me into my recipients. All I want to do is receipt the earnest money, so I'm going to make myself the only recipient here. And I'm going to click on the next button. This takes me into the document that's already signed. Yes, it's signed and it's locked. I cannot do anything but add another signature. I can't edit any of the signatures that are completed on here. It's only going to allow me to add another signature. It's still loading up here, so let's give it a second to load up. All right, more than a second, but.
So you're gonna add that earnest money and then send it back to the.
Exactly. So I'm gonna, and well, what you're gonna do, because it's gonna appear as a new document, you're gonna attach it to the checklist to the purchase contract again. That prompts your admin that you've added a document to the checklist, and they're gonna go in and look at that, and they're gonna see that it's earnest money receipted and make that complete. Okay, well, it's gonna think about it for a minute. So if I'm on that receipt page, if I grab my read only buttons first, because I want to be able to drop in there, you know, the check number is what it's going to ask you for. So I'm going to say number 387. And I know it's going to ask me to sign off that I received the earnest money. I can drop that on my signature line. That's where I'll be signing that I received that. Okay. I'm sorry, this is not populating very well for me. Let me back up just so I can show you how this actually turns out. If I hit the back button here, and hit the back button again. And one more time. It's going to take me back to my transactions here. I'm going to go ahead and take the shortcut and hit the home button. Thank you for spinning blue line, was driving me crazy. Go back into my pendings and pull that Zumstein back up so I can show you where the shows up on the checklist once you've signed something. Go back into my documents. So when I would have completed that DigiSign with the earnest money receipted, it's going to show up as the next document at the top of the list. And I would select it and I would assign it to that purchase contract. So it prompts my admin to see that I've added something. Okay. That makes sense to everybody. I know it wasn't really working for me, but I promise that's the way it goes. So.
But essentially when you've updated your contract, you send it to your admin for that update.
The admin gets prompted on any action you take in here.
Oh,
okay. Within a transaction. So if you're just having something signed, they have no idea about that. But once you put something into the transaction, they are prompted for that. Okay. The next tab over that says log, this is actually going to give.
And the latest document comes up right at the top.
Yes, it will show up right up at the top.
Okay.
As soon, and it will say DigiSign at the end of it.
Okay.
And then you just select that and attach that. The next tab over says log. This is actually going to give you a log of everybody who's been in on the transaction and what they did. So you can see that I clicked on that consumer guide. I previewed it when I was showing it to you guys. And when I pulled up that earnest money receipt, prior to that, it's going to show you anything else that was done. Here's where Lori actually split out the listing documents and was putting them in for me. Then it shows that I was back in the transaction and what I was doing. So if you wanted to see if maybe something was left off or maybe forgotten or overlooked, you can click on that log tab and it's going to show you who was in the transaction doing what. Okay. Next tab over is that task. If you remember in the beginning, that was an icon on the dashboard, task and reminders. So I'm going to go ahead and assign a task in here. I'm going to put new task and it's going to ask me what that is. And I'm going to say submit post-inspection addendum. And it's going to be due, choose the event. It's going to be due 10 days after the acceptance date. And I know that because I put my inspection period in as 10 days. So I'm going to put up here 10 days after acceptance date, which put it to 1/22/3. So the inspection period ends and I'll need to submit that post-inspection period. It's going to let you know who should receive it. I want the listing agent to receive it. So I would type in him. Whoops. Okay, went right back to me, right? And I'm going to receive it. I hit the save button. So on the 3rd now of February, I'm going to get an email notification that I need to submit that post-inspection addendum. Okay. If I need another task, you can put as many tasks in here as you want. You can make them reminders as well instead of a task. And that's going to be same thing. What time, a date do you need it to be? Maybe this would be good for a walkthrough. So I would put in here, you know, final walkthrough. Whoops. I know, I can't have it. Final walkthrough. And I'm going to say it's going to be within closing date. So closing date, and it's going to be before closing date. And I'm going to say, you know, 2 days before. And I want to be reminded at noon that I have that walkthrough. And I hit save. So now I'm going to get an email 2 days before closing that says I have the walkthrough for Zumstein. It's looking for something. I think it's just taking its sweet old time. There we go. All right, next tab over, property. Again, I had mentioned this property had been previously listed and then canceled and relisted. To save a lot of time, we could have inputted a lot of this information into here so that maybe Lori or myself, when we were putting in the new listing, wouldn't have had to go back through and find all that off the MLS. But we didn't do that. So again, this is just for within the transaction, if you want to put in the information on the property here. Okay, so if you know it's going to be a relist, it'll just cut down some time. Okay, that's probably the least used tab on the whole SkySlope. Okay, on the transaction actions on the top right here, you can download a summary, which is going to give you a nice PDF of summarizing the transaction. So that's what I chose, was to download the summary. I'm not going to cancel the transaction. When I downloaded the summary, and I'm going to click on that, it's really just giving you an overview of it right here. It's going to give you the details, the seller's name, the purchaser's name. So this might be something to print out and put in your paper file, just so you have it kind of summarized. Okay. Any questions up to that point? Are we good on there? All right. Is there anything else I can answer for anybody? Because that's really a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Well, I think because I don't have any pendings in there to follow that last bit is like, oh gosh, how much do I have to do? What did the admin do? Was that just a correction, you know, a correction or two? You said once that's done, then your admin gets it.
Your admin gets it, yeah. So even if you just walk in here, you know, on a Monday morning and say, hey, you know, Beth at the Mason office, I got 2 deals done over the weekend, and just hand her the paperwork, she's going to create this for you. And you're going to get that email of the checklist, and then you'll see what you need to do from there.
Okay.
Okay. And they should be going through the document thoroughly enough that if there's an initial missing, they're going to let you know that too.
Okay, I think the system that I was on before went from zip form straight to DocuSign. But this is really no different. You're just downloading it and
Uploading it,
or
exactly.
uploading it to this and using this. So it's just, it looks to me very similar.
It is. This is a lot more. Yeah.
And like, even like when I got that back in my email, what to sign, or I signed. Okay.
And really quick, I'm going to go in. If you wanted to delete anything, like I had set up that contract, whoops, sorry, to go to you once my, you know, pretend buyer signed it.
Yeah.
I can go in and delete that so you don't get that now. If I go into this DigiSign and I go into the sent file, my buyer still hasn't signed it. It's still waiting to go to you at some point. If I hit the edit or resend, I can take you completely out of here.
Okay.
So let me update that. Yep. So now it's just waiting for my buyer to sign. You won't get that. Okay. So that was just by clicking on the little edit button. One thing I did when I first got here, I said I was a few minutes late. I had a buyer call or an agent call me and say, hey, I need proof that the offer was delivered. The agent said they didn't get it. Well, I went in here to my completed tab under DigiSign, and I said, yes, they did. And if I click on the little paper that says, not create template, but the little clock that shows history, this is pulling up the certificate. This is telling you everything that happened in the document. It's going to show that I viewed it. It's going to show that, you know, the other agent did download it. The buyer completed the envelope, and it's going to show who it was sent to and when. So I did go to that other agent, and it actually went right here. Complete document was emailed to Suzanne John at Comey. It was delivered on Friday at 10 a.m. So All I did was hit print. There's a button up here that says print certificate. I printed that, it saved it as a PDF, and I emailed it to the agent and said they did receive it 10 a.m. on Friday. So, but that was something I had to take care of. So you have the ability to access anything and everything about the documents just by that history tab, whether it's completed or sent. They both have that history tab. So if the buyer were to call you and say, hey, I just didn't get it, I'm not getting it, you can show that it did go there. Maybe it's in their spam. You know?
Yeah.
So you did receive it. It says it went to your email. So, all right. Templates. We really don't cover templates very much because it is very detailed, and this could be things that you create if you're using maybe the same. I had an investor buyer who buys lots of properties. So I didn't want to have to re-tag every single contract because it was always the same. You can create a template and you can call it. And then once you create it in there, and it's going to know where to tag everything again. And it's going to know parties' names and who goes to. So that's in creating the template. And again, that's the best scenario I would say to use it in is in something like that, where you've got an investor buyer who's buying lots of properties and you don't want to have to run that every time through DigiSign. Creating a template will save you the time to do that. Okay. Any other questions on that? Kara or Bev, you want to chime in? You need anything? I think we have the chat buttons too. We don't have any chatters though.
Nope, I'm good. I'm good. This is being
Nadine?
recorded, so you'll be able to send it to us anyway.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, because I missed the very beginning with before where you even go for
Okay.
the zip form.
Zip forms? Nope, I'll send you guys the recording here in just a little bit.
Thank you.
All right, Bev, are you good? Can I do anything? All right, Bev might be chatting. I'm good, very informative. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys, I'm going to sign off here then. I'll send you the recording of this and feel free to ask any questions. You know, I'm always available. All right.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.